Good morning, creatives. Thank you for joining me today on this month's virtual designer talk. My name is Linda Abbott, and I am the Senior Architectural Design Consultant for Stone Hardscapes. With over 20 years of working with natural stone, I collaborate with architects, landscape architects, and designers during the design phase of a project to ensure that the material being specified is the most appropriate type of stone, finish, thickness, and size to meet the design intent of the project. Let's take a dive into this month's topic: large format design concepts that won't break the bank. We strive to be as transparent as possible by educating our clients on the various stone types, as well as provide the pros and cons of each type of material when helping to specify the most appropriate type of stone. Not every stone is suitable for every project's design. So today's goals will be creating large format designs while staying on budget, the do's and don'ts when creating the layout, and the installation methods for natural stone and porcelain. Goal number 1, creating large format designs while staying on budget. Who doesn't love the look of large pieces of stone? It has a dramatic effect on the space, and that is undeniable. Creating indoor and outdoor large format designs can be difficult to achieve on a budget. However, I'd like to share some tips and tricks on how to save money when designing this concept. Installation is less expensive, okay? When designing a space, consider using smaller stones to create that large format design. Shown here is a 16 by 24. The installation is easier because the stones are not as heavy to lift, and one man is able to carry the piece and install it. Whereas if you are using a large slab, it would take multiple people for the manpower of carrying that slab and setting it into space. Therefore, the installation cost will be much more expensive if you are using a larger slab. Typically, the smaller size stone you specify will be less expensive per square foot than the larger stone. This will save money on the overall project. So the material cost is going to be less expensive if you're using a smaller size stone. There are some really cool concept designs that you can create this large format design with. You could use a 6 by 12, a 12 by 24, or even a 16 by 24 size to create that large format design, and it looks absolutely beautiful like you see here. There's also less cuts and waste, which keeps the cost down. So using smaller size stones for your project will ultimately keep costs down because the installer will have less cuts and waste. Remember to create your large format designs with sizes that will work best for the overall space and design of the project. Materials will be readily available if you use these smaller size stones. An outdoor sanctuary is easy to achieve when material is readily available. Stones that are 24 by 24 in size and under are much easier to come by. So when a project is well underway and the contractor runs short on the material, which unfortunately happens more than not, having easy access to additional material is important. If you specify those larger slabs and you run short, it can take up to 12 weeks or even longer, depending on the country that the material is coming from, to get those additional slabs, which is not conducive of the overall project because it can halt the project. And what does that do? That will end up increasing costs because we won't be able to deliver the project on time. So you can create unique design concepts like this with in-stock materials and not have any issues. Goal number 2, do's and don'ts when creating the layout. Do, analyze whether a sand set or a mud set application will work best. For driveways, if the driveway is mostly flat or just has a slight slope in it, sand set application is a good option and is less expensive than a mud set application. For natural stone, don't use a stone size that's larger than 6 by 12 in a sand set application for residential driveways that are 1¼ inch thick. Do use larger size stones in a residential driveway that will be mud set. It does look great. For commercial driveways, you can use a 6 by 12 in a sand set application with a thickness of at least 2 inches. If the commercial driveway is going to be mud set, then a 1¼ inch is suitable. Travertine can be modern. Don't assume that travertine can't create a modern look. Here's a drone view of a driveway. I think you can agree that the driveway installation is far from the typical Mediterranean style that is designed with travertine pavers. If you think outside the box and change the pattern or incorporate some bandings, it will create a modern flair to your designs. Bandings can create different looks in different colors. You can use different types of stone, different materials, or adding artificial turf will create this beautiful look. Curb appeal. Do consider a 6 by 12 inch size for the driveway and create large format designs like you see here, using artificial turf or a different color stone to add character and a unique design concept that will be a visual interest to the space. Do add stone bandings in a contrast color such as this to give a unique design look to the driveway and add visual appeal to a driveway. Again, 6 by 12 pavers were used in a sand set application. You can see how beautiful the bandings in a contrast color look in this driveway. If you have a large driveway, do consider using different sizes and adding visual interest by adding the artificial turf or contrasting stone color. Breaking up the driveway by adding character will create gorgeous curb appeal when you have the space to do something like this. Notice here that the larger size stones are being used. Don't use the larger size stones in a driveway unless you are using a mud set application, if you're using that 1¼ inch thick material. Otherwise, material will have point load issues and crack. So you want to make sure you're using a mud set application if you're using 1¼ inch thick material. Do measure the overall deck and use the most appropriate size stone that fits the space best. We want to keep waste at a minimum, which will keep the cost down. So if Rex and squares will work best in the large format design concept, take in consideration the sizes that you're using. Here's a minimalistic design. Don't think you have to go crazy and add that large format design across the entire deck, which I've shown you previously. Do implement your large format design concept as subtle as you wish. This will create a unique design concept to the space without making the space feel so overwhelming. Do have fun with your design with the larger the deck. The larger the deck, the easier it is to soften the space with unique design concepts like this. To add visual interest with lounge pads for furniture to go atop to help with the stability of the furniture, if the space allows. As you can see here, they created these large format design concepts off to the side so that they can set up furniture and have some space for something that might be a little wobbly if it was on grass itself. Don't think you have to use one material throughout. Look how lovely the porcelain plank pavers look with the natural stone. The porcelain plank pavers are set underneath the covered area, and then the natural stone goes out beyond it for the coping and the stepping pads. Notice the large format stepping paths also add that visual appeal to the space. Do consider creating large format stepping pads with smaller stones to give a unique design concept to the pool's interior. So that stepping pad across the pool, if you're using the smaller size stones, that'll save on cost, and it has beautiful visual appeal as well. Same home with a different area, creating that large format design concept and adding some turf. Do keep an open mind to the different sizes and how to put them together to create the perfect look for your design. For interior design, do consider bringing the look of that large format design inside. Again, the cost will be less than using the larger size stones, and you can create great options using contrast banding like you see here. Goal number 3, installation methods for natural stone and porcelain. Recommended installation methods for porcelain is always going to be a mud set, as it is the most safe and functional method for the longevity of the project. Yes, there are installers and porcelain suppliers that will say that it can be set on sand. However, the cons clearly outweigh the pros in a sand set application. The pros is it's easy to clean for the porcelain. However, the cons are as follows. Sand shifting beneath the stone will cause that square edge of the porcelain to create lippage across the deck. The porcelain edges are extremely sharp, and it will cut your toe if you stub it accidentally. Spacers are required between each of the stones, which will drive up the installation costs. Because it is a very dense material, it requires special diamond blades to cut the porcelain. Those blades are dulled easily, and they do go through many of them, which also raises the installation costs. So please keep that in mind when you're doing a porcelain installation, that it does drive up the cost. For a porcelain installation, the recommendation looks something like this. You have your substrate, you have your concrete base, you have your mortar bed, your porcelain paver, and then spaces with the grout joints. Never install porcelain pavers without the required 4mm spacing between them. The porcelain pavers should never be installed with a porcelain to porcelain contact. Here is the Milano White 20-inch by 40-inch porcelain installed inside of a home. It has a lovely, clean, and minimalistic look. Now here's the Milano porcelain pavers being installed on an exterior application. As you can see, it creates a very minimalistic look. Natural stone for exterior applications. Recommendations for natural stone pavers for exterior applications can be sand set or mud set. What are some of the functional benefits of a sand set application? The biggest is that it's less expensive than mud setting because you don't have to pour a slab if doing a sand set application. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that Stone Hardscapes was the first manufacturer to import travertine and marble pavers into the US and educate the market on how to install these pavers in a sand set application? When you're installing 20 to 40,000 square feet of pavers and it's in a mud set application, you're looking at adding a substantial amount of money for pouring concrete to adhere the stone to. So when you can sand set, you want to sand set. It's definitely the cheaper way to go. So why is it that we can sand set natural stone, but we don't recommend sand setting the porcelain? Remember how I mentioned that the porcelain has a more rectified, sharper edge? Well, you have to keep that in mind. The natural stone has a tumbled edge, so the edges are not perfectly square. So when they're set on sand, if they shift a little bit, it won't harm anything or do anything, and you won't even notice the lipids or the change from the sand shifting underneath. So that's the biggest difference. A natural stone that is rectified or square edge should not be placed in a sand set application. Otherwise, yes, you will have that lippage and it can be an issue. If there is an issue with anything to do with the pool, it's also easier to pick up the material and repair those issues and lay the stone back down when you have a sand set application. So that is another big positive when you're working on a pool project and you have to go underneath to get to the pool equipment or something. For a successful sand set application, the following guidelines should be followed. Most importantly, know the most appropriate size stone and thickness to specify for the best results. Residential foot traffic only in a sand set application, any size starting from 4 inches to 4 inch by 8 inch, all the way up to 48 by 48 and a 1.25 inch thickness will be structurally sound. Again, pedestrian foot traffic only. Ideal for walkways, entryways, pool decks, patios, anything for just pedestrian foot traffic only. Natural stone driveway installation guidelines are a little different. I touched on this a little earlier, but let's review it in a little more depth. For a sand set application, that's residential, stone size should not exceed 6 by 12 when it is 1 1/4 inch thick. So a 4 by 8 or a 6 by 12 would be best suited here in this situation. If you want to specify a stone that is larger in size, then specify a thicker stone to accommodate this if you're doing a sand set application, or if the budget allows, mud setting the stone to give it the compression strength needed for the vehicular traffic. Some pointers regarding a residential driveway. If there's a large slope in the driveway, I do not recommend a sand set application of the stone. Be cognizant of the edge restraints needed for the border material. Footers are always going to be the best to keep pavers locked into place if the budget allows. Residential design for a successful application. Driveways that are sand set should not be installed with natural stone that is any bigger than a 6 by 12 when it's 1 1/4 inch thick. I keep reiterating that for a reason. This project shows you how to create a large format design using 6 by 12 pavers. One of the biggest travertine myths is that you can't incorporate travertine in a modern design concept. Here's a prime example of how you can. Compaction of the soil subgrade and aggregate base materials are essential to the long-term performance of the project. Installation steps typically include job planning, layout, excavating and compacting the soil subgrade, applying geotextiles, spreading the compact subbase and or base aggregates, constructing edge restraints, placing and screeding the bedding sand, placing natural stone pavers, compacting the natural stone pavers, and then sweeping the joint sand for the final compaction. Please note minimum 6 inch compacted lime rock. Also note travertine or marble pavers at a 3 cm thickness should not exceed the surface area of a 6 by 12 for non-commercial vehicular traffic. The concrete edge restraint should cover the full length and width of the stone being adhered to it. That is super important. The above picture references a 6 inch width of the 6 by 12 paver being laid on the 6 inch side. If a 6 by 12 paver is laid on the 12 inch side, the concrete restraint should be 12 inches wide. More details can be found on the Stone Hardscapes website under Product Resources, Installation. Here's an example of a mud set driveway with larger sizes. Here the ashlar pattern is used, and those sizes are made up of 8x8, 8x16, 16x16, and 16x24 to create this design. Again, mud set application. So why mud set material instead of sand set? Some benefits are it limits the weed growth in between because there's no grass or sand that is there. There's no shifting of sand beneath the material. Additional strength given to the stone for heavy traffic patterns. You can use a thinner material that is sometimes necessary for covered patios, not having the height needed to work with areas when they need to add material on top of another material, so they don't have to tear out existing. So you can use a thinner material when you're doing a mud set application. And this project itself is a coral stone 24x48 3/4 inch that was mud set at the Hyatt Regency Aruba Resort. So with that being said, and so many different options in paving materials, whether man-made or natural, Stone Hardscapes can help you choose the best materials for your designs. We're here to make your specification process as easy as possible, bring to fruition your designs in both function as well as beauty. I hope this designer talk was both inspirational as well as informative to you. If you have any questions about today's topic or would like to discuss an upcoming topic or project, please don't hesitate to reach out. I welcome your feedback always. I appreciate your feedback, and I also would very much appreciate your topic suggestions so that I can help you even more. So on that note, I thank you so much for joining me today, and until next time, stay healthy and stay creative. Thanks so much. See you next month.